mucho las empanadas.
¿Pero qué, para Navidad?
Ah, no.
They had been at Scott.
Pero, como se llama, los brazos están cargados. Si no las listas.
¿O sí?
Pues a ver si puedo hacerlo para Navidad.
I look for someone
Un chiquito así, un lechoncito. Lechón.
Un puerquito.
Unos tigres.
Sí,
No es toda la familia, nomás somos, no somos todos los marinos, nomás somos la familia, por ejemplo, mis hijos con los solteros y los casados, como se llama.
Which I think is early on. But yeah, she's not fine. They're fine. But I just know.
Más 11.
I think it's like two. So potentially to do the 5 or 6,
Pero no es porque si nos juntamos todos los marinos, no.
Ahorita no es recomendable hacer eso. Los nomás grandes. Y están de edad. ¿O sí? Ya. Sí, el virus se los chinga a ellos.
I'm still trying to reach. I called him.
which one is that?
It's Darrell Apfel's church over in Texas City. I get the name.
Oh, got it, okay.
Test. ¿Esto es tuyo? Oh, it's tuyo, Nathan? Is your name then? Hey, Rick, how are you? How you doing today, my brother? Hey, I just want to find out, that, are you feeding this and then pulling it or whatever?
Yeah, I found out last night. So.
No, I'll take a heart.
You're the insane.
Yeah.
Mama, that's me?
Right on 646.
So the regular, no, the regular conversation just to get on.
No, okay, I just push it. I think I did it, but I guess I didn't push it hard enough or make a touch, right? You want this one, Nathan?
I think it's okay to send today for flex speed.
No, next week I talked to
Well, you never know.
Joe's actually out.
The last time who did, remember the guy with the... Yep, okay, let me give you my check. Testing, Rick, can you hear me? Testing. Okay, send it to the pool people, because I guess pool is not here.
Okay.
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 So you ready? Is it good? Okay, testing. You good? All right. Yeah, okay, thank you, appreciate it. All right, bye.
Yeah.
What do you think? You need it or no? I can
Well,
give it to you, man. It doesn't matter.
I'll take it.
It doesn't matter, bro. You know that
Yeah.
we feel just, this one doesn't have just.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Man, you know, we see, bro. Here in the field, we're no competition. I don't give a crap what they people doing there.
I know what you mean.
We talk each other. You want numbers? Let them inside, fight for them the numbers. Because you know what? After the last time I checked, 20 years ago, we're okay. You want to give my check, Nathan?
I heard when you did it, I got a good one.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Everybody good with sound?
As far as we know,
Okay, just want to make sure. I know we've had problems in the past, so.
all right.
You good?
Talk? Let me see.
Yeah, check.
220?
Check 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Is this good? We're good?
And now in Spanish, por favor, español.
I'm sorry. I'm from New Hampshire. They taught French up there. You good? Okay. Yeah, I know.
Don't be shy. You say, Papi, you're a high school Spanish.
Oh God, I still have this. It's gone, man. Really fast high school English.
Good afternoon, or good morning, everyone. Somebody need audio check or anything? Everybody good?
Good.
Okay,
How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
How was Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was good. Looks like we're going to destroy Christmas, though.
Oh, my God.
All right, good morning. I'm Mark Henry. I'm County Judge, Galveston County. I'm joined today by State Representative Mays Middleton, James Clark, who is the president of the Galveston chapter of the Texas Restaurant Association, and Gina Spagnola, who is the president or executive director? President of the Galveston Regional Chamber of Commerce. They're all going to make a statement, and then we'll take questions at the end from anyone for anyone, so if you'll just bear with us to the end. Yesterday afternoon, about 4:45, we were notified by the state of Texas that they imposed the restrictions under GA 32, which shuts down all bars, limits restaurant capacity to 50%, and dispenses with a lot of elective and not life-saving medical procedures. The effects of that are going to be dramatic and in some cases devastating. We saw this coming and sent multiple requests to the state explaining why they should not rely on the information that they had and why Galveston County should be exempted from these. We did not even receive an acknowledgement that they got the requests, but those are a matter of public information, so they're out there. We have tried to explain that Galveston County is in a trauma service area, TSA, that extends from Brazoria County to the Louisiana state line up to Jasper. And to try to impose a one-size-fits-all solution for that large of a geographic area is really ridiculous. Our hospitals have got such capacity that they are accepting patients from out of the county and even out of the state. So no responsible hospital would be agreeing to that if they had capacity issues. We made these points very clear in our request for exemption or waiver. Again, wasn't even acknowledged that they got it. The general order doesn't really define hospital capacity, and one of our ongoing challenges is that the two reporting agencies, SetTrack and DISHES, don't even agree on the data. We have multiple times pointed out discrepancies in reporting from the DISHES data, that they say they've got to do it that way because the federal government requires that. That may be, but it doesn't require them to make bad public policy decisions based on bad data that we know they have in their hands. And again, the fact that SetTrack and DISHES data doesn't even agree with each other tells you that you can't really rely on any of it. We know also that one day last week, a hospital in Beaumont forgot, I assume, to report cases, and that skewed the numbers up so high it brought the capacity to 35%. So just another example of we don't have any real confidence that the data they look at is accurate. But further to the point, here in Galveston County, we know that the hospitals do not have capacity problems and they don't have staffing problems. Again, as attested to by the fact that they're able to bring in patients from out of the county, which then get counted against us, and out of the state. I believe that's it for my remarks. I'll pass it off now to State Representative Mays Middleton, who will make a few remarks, and then James will come back.
Well, I want to thank Judge Henry for standing up for small businesses in our community. Small businesses are the backbone of every community, especially ours in Galveston County, where we're so heavily dependent on our service economy with restaurants and bars. And I actually filed a bill this morning that would prevent state agencies from fining, suspending, or revoking anyone's occupational license or license to operate based on the violation of a disaster order. So in other words, reopen. I think it's appropriate that we're here at the Emergency Operations Center because making sure our small businesses are open is always an emergency. And frankly, at the end of the day, I think every Texan deserves the right to make a living and feed their family. And we also need to trust every Texan to make their decisions for themselves. If they don't feel safe going somewhere, they shouldn't go there. So we're here today to oppose any shutdowns. I personally oppose any shutdowns, and I'm going to fight next session to make sure that we limit this and make sure there are no more small businesses shut down in our economy based on disaster orders. So that was the first part this morning when I filed that bill. I know there are other legislators that have already filed other legislation that will limit the ability of disaster orders to be used against small businesses and force them, frankly, out of business because so many are suffering right now. So many have not been able to recover from the first round of shutdowns. And this is how people feed their family. And it's just a basic Texas right to feed your family and make a living. So I appreciate County Judge for doing this today. I appreciate him standing up for our community and the small businesses in it. So, thank you.
James?
I, like Representative Mays Middleton, applaud County Judge Mark Henry on his efforts to try to help support our small businesses. And as a representative of the Texas Restaurant Association, just want to express that we have been supportive of this system that's given us the social distance requirements and reopening the protocols, keeping restaurants from going much above 50% already. And we applaud our county judge as well as all of our city mayors for being so supportive of our industry and reassuring the public that these are safe environments to go into. Our standpoint has always been that we are one of the most regulated industries for health, sanitation, and safety. And I want to recognize the efforts of our restaurants during this pandemic as they have gone above and beyond to do more than what is required to ensure the safety of their staff and of their customers. Statistics-wise, just so you know, the average restaurant is spending anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month on PPE and COVID protocol-related equipment to enhance the sanitation environment within our spaces. And reducing of capacities and closing of bars is going to push the consumers out of these safe regulated spaces. It's going to put them into unregulated spaces, which promotes an environment of spread. So why not encourage people to continue to go to our safe spaces in areas that we can take care of their safety and concern. Thank you very much.
Open for questions.
Gina,
Did you have
I
any?
can't, Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Judge, for supporting small business, Representative Middleton. On behalf of the Galveston Regional Chamber of Commerce of Texas First Chamber of Commerce, we have over 900 businesses, 28 business representatives on that. I'm honored to serve on the judge's COVID-19 Business Task Force, and I come representing all of our chambers in this county, and we are absolutely opposed to any further shutdowns. We've never been for that. We as chambers are out on the streets visiting with these small businesses every single day, and I can tell you this would be absolutely devastating to have them be shut down again. And so we stand in support of the people here, our restaurants and the small businesses. I too believe that every business should have the right every morning to go to their business and turn that sign that says open for business. If you don't want to go to a business, you can stay home. You don't have to go there. But we believe that they have the right, and we know without a shadow of a doubt, another closure would be devastating to these businesses. Have supported this county and pretty much lost so much already. So thank y'all so much for your support, Judge. Thank you for supporting business.
Question, do you have any numbers or anything like that on what the impact has already been?
Well, like he said, with our restaurants, we know 10,000 in Texas have shut down. It may be more than that.
It's currently it's 10,000.
Yeah, come up.
But that's statewide, right?
Currently statewide, it's 10,000, and before the release of the latest bill that they're still kind of digesting right now, they're estimating that at least another 10,000 we're going to close permanently.
Mm-hmm. And we know locally a lot of the businesses are waiting for this holiday season. They were waiting for spring break, then waiting for the summer, and we know for sure, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know the majority of them would have to shut down, especially the bars.
So I guess this is for any of you. I'm sure people are calling up your offices this morning asking, what's the deal? What should I be doing? If a bar or restaurant calls your office, what are you telling them they should be doing?
That decision was made by the state. It's out of my hands as of 8 o'clock this morning. If you're classified as a bar, you're supposed to be closed. If you're classified as a restaurant, you're supposed to be at 50% capacity. This is nothing that the Galveston County Judge did. This came from the state. So they don't make that point that I oppose it, but there's really nothing that I can do about it.
How long until these restrictions are lifted?
7 consecutive days below 15%. Again, I'd like to point out that the numbers that Dishes uses is definitely flawed data. So 7 days below 15% of flawed data.
if a bar stays open, would you tell them if you choose to do that, you're breaking the law? I mean, bars especially could face fines.
They are in violation of the governor's order. However, I talked to the sheriff this morning. He has no resources available to go police this. I talked to the district attorney. He cautioned everyone against filing charges because he probably won't take them. Depends on the circumstances. And I had a conference call with every mayor in the county this morning and relayed that exact same information to them. The general feedback I got was they're in the exact same position I am, and that is people are going to do what people are going to do.
So essentially, if a bar or anyone violates this, don't let.
Well, the governor still has his own police force with the TABC, but as far as local law enforcement resources, we're very busy with organized crime, with the unfortunate shooting that occurred here recently. His people are tied up with actual things like that need to be dealt with and not counting people in a restaurant.
But often the TABC calls on the local municipalities to take care of.
I hope they don't do that this time. I doubt they're going to get a lot of response.
I was talking to the Galveston mayor this morning, and he was saying that he was under the impression that restaurants had to limit their capacity and bars had to stay closed for 14 days. So is it 14 days?
It's 7. He sent an email that just had some bad information in it. Okay. So it's 7 days below 15%.
Okay. Representative Milton.
And that's why I filed. So that gets to the point of the TABC of why I filed the bill this morning, to limit state agencies' ability to go in there and fine, suspend, or revoke your occupational license, because that's frankly the main hammer at this point, where they say, hey, we're going to take away your ability to make a living. Because, I mean, bars, restaurants, they're all dependent on that occupational license or license to operate. And if that's taken away, they have lost their ability to make a living. They can't be open. They may go out of business for good. So that's why I made sure to introduce that piece of legislation that takes away the power of an agency like the TABC to revoke that occupational license.
That's well and good, but that's later. That hasn't passed. It has no chance of passing yet until the legislation moves. What are you doing now? You have connections to the governor. You've heard over here.
I've been opposed to all shutdowns from day one.
Yeah, but the county judge just said they've never heard back from the governor. Don't you have a hotline to them? You talk about that all the time. How come they haven't heard back? Have you made a call to the governor on behalf of the county?
I'm definitely already working on it. Everybody knows from the very beginning of this that it is a fundamental right of people's ability to make a living and feed their family. And I have been crystal clear about that.
Specifically on this issue?
On this issue, I'm talking to his office today, actually. So, yes.
But were you not aware of what the county judge just said? They've been asking, they knew this was coming. They've been trying to get it stopped. And you haven't talked to the governor before today's effort?
I've been opposed to all shutdowns.
That was not my question.
Period.
I'm sorry. I'm just asking. The county judge just stood here and said.
I've been working with Judge Henry on this. I've talked to Dishes. I've talked to NIMKID, Texas Department of Emergency Management, and their waivers. Every step along the way, anything that I could do to keep people open, I have done. Period.
Well, I mean, again, you said you were calling the governor today. The county judge said they saw it coming. I'm sorry to pinpoint on this, but I want to know what specific call.
Well, did we see it coming, TJ? I think the county judge just made it clear that this data is fundamentally flawed.
Right.
So no, maybe we did not. I think that they can back me up on that. Look, there's problems with the data. And at the end of the day, if there's problems with the data, guess what? You err on the side of small businesses.
Did you ask any questions about the data? So is there any counterintelligence to support the claim that the data is flawed, to show that here in Galveston County that 15% is not there? I know you say that they've got the occupancy in the hospitals.
They don't look at it by county. They'll look at it by the entire TSA.
Right, but is there anything relative to Galveston that would properly challenge?
Accurate information, but they're not going to look at Galveston County in isolation. They're going to look at Galveston County as part of the TSA.
But is there any internal intelligence that's been gathered to counter that?
Only the fact that the hospitals have told us there's no capacity problems, that they don't have any reason to be concerned about that. And I think it did happen in some other counties in this TSA, but not in Galveston County. And another point I need to make is that a lot of people plan medical procedures at the end of the year for a number of reasons. They have time off from work. They're trying to get their insurance benefits because they've met their deductible, and those are all going to get put on hold now.
Did you ask UTMB if they had canceled elective surgeries?
I have not asked them that, but the order says they have to. So, but I've not asked them that.
There's no one from the health district or UTMB or HCA here today. Did you ask them to be here?
The local health authority, Dr. Kaiser, has given us a statement which we'll hand out to everyone that really echoes what I have said, that there's no capacity problems.
Isn't part of the explanation from the state is to not address a crisis in hospitalizations, but to prevent one in the future. We're probably going to get an update in the next hour about the number of new cases today. We've had about 2,000 new cases in the past month. Isn't there some argument that this, from the governor, is a preventative measure to stop us from reaching a crisis level?
That might be the governor's position. I don't know. I've not heard from him.
Do you think we could reach a crisis level where you would change your opinion?
I think long before we got to a crisis, I would hear from the hospitals that are saying we're starting to have problems. They're telling me just the opposite. So we would certainly have lead time of weeks, if not months, before something like that happened. Don't forget, this was all 15 days to flatten the curve 285 days ago.
Dr. Kaiser had spoken before I came over here, and it said, while the capacity is there, and it adjusts like every 12 hours, and they have nurses that are on loan from the state.
Correct. Very good point, TJ. We had to request additional help for out-of-county cases. That's absolutely correct.
But he had said, though, the numbers are very concerning. There's almost 3,000 folks right now, active cases, almost 2,000, like active hospitalizations that are Galveston County residents. They could be anywhere at this point. And with the added number in there, he says there is a concern, though. He's not dismissing that, but he says the capacity is there, but he doesn't know how long the capacity will be there after Christmas.
Certainly. I can agree with that, sure, that we would have a capacity concern should we get anywhere near there, but I would assume they would stop taking out-of-county and out-of-state patients first.
And I wonder if someone could address, everyone has said, hey, if you don't feel safe to go there, isn't this all about more, though, just err on the devil's advocate side? This is more about, it's not if you're going to feel safe, it is the other person who goes to a place who thinks it's relatively safe. And you can answer this, I know you've got, versus unregulated, regulated, but if someone comes in and gets sick because of someone else, they don't know who has COVID and who doesn't.
So there's no scientific evidence that says that restaurants are a spreader. What is a spreader is, like I said prior, is when there's an unregulated space, an unregulated gathering, where people kind of lose their inhibitions and lose the mass, and that's when you can have more of a spread. That's where the concern is pushing people out of these safe spaces that are heavily regulated and monitored and are providing all these different protocols and safety measures to make sure not only the staff is safe, but the consumers are safe as well.
Are you reducing your restaurant's capacity?
Yes. I mean, our capacity was already at where it was about 50% anyways because of those social distancing requirements. So really 50% to 75% didn't benefit our particular situation very much. So, I mean, it's reduced, yes, but it's because we're at our max capacity as it is.
Without seeing detail, how about the outdoor spaces? Because that's been a discussion, is that under this as well, or that doesn't count towards the capacity?
It does not count towards outdoor capacities. Outdoors are still just regulated by the 6-foot social distancing requirements.
But that's still a challenge for many of the restaurants in your association, is it not? Some like past sidewalks maybe, but that's about it.
Correct, and luckily we've had a lot of cooperation with the cities on being able to get limited use of these spaces like sidewalks and parklets and things of that nature to be able to have these outdoor dining spaces. But that being said, we're getting into weather that luckily we're in an environment that the weather is pretty conducive to being able to do that still. But it definitely makes it a little less comfortable for folks, but we're still putting that opportunity out there for our guests.
Jeff, you said you talked to mayors this morning?
Yes.
I don't think you said there was unanimous agreement. Is it possible some of our cities are giving their businesses different advice or more vociferous?
We didn't exactly take a vote. I'm just telling you that I relayed the position of myself, of the sheriff, of the DA, and those who chimed in agreed with us. I can't say all 13 cities chimed in.
Judge, how many correspondences did the county send to the state asking them to reconsider?
3. The first one was sent, we can get you the exact dates, but then the numbers started to drop, and we said, well, this doesn't make sense to request a waiver when we're not going to meet the criteria anyway. So we wrote them and said, we can probably pull that request back. Then we sent a second and a third.
How long back did that start going?
2 weeks for the first time we saw this, 3 weeks. And again, we don't have any faith in the data, but we saw the methodology the state was employing and that the bad data was going to result in a bad public policy decision, which is exactly what happened that got us here today.
Have you talked with the judges in Jefferson County or any other part in the TSA region?
I haven't yet. We just got this at 4:45 yesterday afternoon.
It's a little weird for us to be, for Galveston County, when I say us, to be in the same position as, say, an Orange County, right?
Or Jasper. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I want to thank Representative Middleton, because some days saying this makes no sense, you're on an island by yourself. And so I'm very glad to have him over there with me. At least there's two of us on this island, and now four, at least for a little while.
There's been no response at all from the governor's office on this?
For the first time yesterday evening, I will say around 8 p.m., Chief Kidd acknowledged that he got it, and that was it.
Have you officially asked for another waiver? I think the judge
Yes.
in Jefferson County has said he's asking for one.
And not only that, we outlined the rationale. I mean, we told them this is the reason that this makes no sense. So yes.
Representative Middleton, let me ask you, did you get other reps from these other counties to join in with you?
I haven't talked to my fellow reps in this region. I have not spoken with my fellow reps in the region yet because it came in late yesterday, but I have spoken with other areas that are in a similar situation where they've triggered the threshold, and obviously they're very much against the shutdowns as well. Like I think Smith County may have gotten their notification last night from what I heard. So
just to be clear, your all's position, are you advising people to oppose the governor's orders or to follow the governor's orders and just be upset about it? Are you advising them to write the governor and ask for a waiver? Like what are you acting?
We're here today to fight for small businesses and people's ability to make a living. We have the county judge on our side, thank goodness. And we need to make sure that, and the chamber has been very helpful as well, and the other chambers in our area have also. You know, at the end of the day, this is something we've got to fix and we've got to make right. I'm hopeful that maybe there's something that we can get done here. You know, I mean, obviously we got problems with the data. The judge and the county health authority is a lot more involved in that than I am. But, you know, hopefully we can come to a solution here where we get people reopened, because that's what we want at the end of the day. We want people's ability to decide for themselves. You know, you don't have to go to a bar, you don't have to go to a restaurant, but we got to give you the option to be open.
On your legislation, also, would it also, you support legislation too that would, at least when these interim things happen, that there's some type of legislative committee, somewhat like the legislative budget board or something like that can make decisions along with the governor and health officials? Or
Right.
if there's an emergency disaster, is that something?
Well, we've got to reform our 1975 Disaster Powers Act is what that goes to, because obviously when that was passed, it was intended for areas like this, hurricanes, you know, wildfires, tornadoes, things like that, very much natural disasters, not the kind of thing where, you know, data changes and suddenly you're shut down. We need to make sure we address that next session. I've been very clear about that. We've got to reform that and limit it. I don't know exactly what that limitation looks like. Could that be 30 days and the legislature comes into session? I don't know, but rest assured we're definitely working on that. We've got to get that done next session. So.
Representative, any county statewide that's been granted an exemption like that you've asked for?
I'm not. I'm not.
But I also don't know who's asked.
Yeah.
I don't know who else did the deep dive into the data like we have done and said this doesn't make any sense for us. James just pulled up the information. For those of you who don't know, our Galveston County Health District has a very good dashboard. There are only 65 hospitalizations with COVID right now in Galveston County. And
I'm sorry, with current residents.
county residents, right. All the rest are from out of county / out of state.
Repeat that again, Judge, I'm sorry.
65, and this is something you can go verify on the health district's website.
Sure.
County residents are currently hospitalized.
But some of those other county residents use our facilities.
Yes, absolutely they do.
Are.
But again, I would assume this hospital's going to say, we're starting to have capacity problems. We can't take out of county and out of state anymore. But we have come nowhere near that.
Question for the representative. Just, you're obviously advocating for small businesses. Are all small businesses equal in your eyes as far as this issue, whether it's a bar or a tattoo parlor or
Absolutely, all the same.
craft shop? So a bar should be treated the same as the craft shop down.
Exactly. Look, I don't even drink, so it's a weird position to be advocating for, you know, fighting for bars as much as we've had to over the past 6 months. But look, it's people's life savings. It's no different. You know, they've invested everything they had in these businesses, and now they're being told they don't even deserve the right to make a living. You know, so it's all small businesses in our community, and you know, at the end of the day, that's really the backbone. You know, the chamber, most of their members are small businesses, you know, so that's what makes us the community that we are. That's what makes Texas great, is that we support and promote small businesses. So that's why it's so important to get them open, all of them open.
to their full capacity, or what's your desire to see?
Some are deciding for themselves, but I think it's their decision at the end of the day. We need to leave it to them.
So if a bar wants to operate at capacity, indoor, outdoor, without regard to COVID-related issues, as long as they're meeting the kind of the standard TABC, not serving alcohol to minors and such like that,
I think personal responsibility as far as how you operate your business, it's up to you. And if it's not operating safely, obviously, the whole law enforcement issue is a separate one where, we've got to hold people accountable for serving minors. But, at the same time, it's up to personal responsibility at the end of the day. We have to trust Texans to make their own decisions for themselves.
Well, what are you guys going to do, with the people? Because this is pretty much the bars. The bars is an environment that you cannot control. Once they're drinking, you cannot control that. So what are you advocating? For the bars to get open or to comply with the things, and then if they don't comply, what is the answer?
Well, right now they're completely closed, so it's not acceptable.
That's not acceptable, but if someone decides to open up, which is essentially defying governor's order, what is your message to them?
Well, they can't be arrested, right? So that's in you cannot be imprisoned or arrested if you violate the TABC's orders. So that's an important thing to remember, and I think that was in the previous disaster order, or maybe the one before that. But obviously that stemmed from other cases in the Dallas area. So, at the end of the day, though, it goes down to the closures. Either you're open or you're closed. That's the problem, is that whole occupational license issue where, they can't arrest you, but they can take away your license to make a living.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
We've seen this order go into effect in other counties, but right, they're already pretty, I guess, around the liberal side. Yeah, so like they're already willing to do this, and Galveston County might be one of the first.
How long have you been doing the pictures?
But do you worry at all if you're sticking your finger in the camera? That's a political question. Yeah, I'm gonna